Despite attempts to cancel the term, Cro-Magnon is still a valid scientific term. Just as Neanderthal refers to a pre-modern human population in Europe, Cro-Magnon refers to the first population of modern Homo sapiens to inhabit Europe. Now, let's take a deep dive into these mysterious peoples, including a discussion of the females of this race of early Europeans. The term men of the reindeer age was historically used to refer to the Cro-Magnons. The term highlights their strong association with reindeer hunting, which was a key part of their survival strategy during the last ice age. The term encapsulates the ice age lifestyle of the Cro-Magnons, emphasizing their dependence on reindeer herds for survival, tools, and culture. The Cro-Magnons represent a pivotal moment in the history of human evolution. These Homo sapiens arrived in Europe around 45,000 years ago, replacing the last remnants of Neanderthal bands and leaving behind a rich cultural and genetic legacy. The story of the first Europeans is a fascinating journey through deep time, beginning with the arrival of Cro-Magnon, a term traditionally used to describe the people who lived in Europe around 40,000 to 20,000 years ago. Some of the earliest examples are from Oase Cave in Romania, Bacho Kiro Cave in Bulgaria, and Zlaty Kun in the Czech Republic. The term Cro-Magnon refers specifically to fossil remains found in the Cro Magnon rock shelter in southwestern France. But today the term is still used in popular culture to describe all early modern humans who lived in Europe during the Upper Paleolithic. The Cro-Magnon skull exhibits several defining characteristics that distinguish it from earlier Homo sapiens populations. Among these features, the high, vertical forehead is particularly significant, as it has often been described as the mirror of a man's intelligence. Indeed, even female Cro-Magnons possessed an average brain volume of 1,500 to 1,600 cubic centimeters, which is at the higher end of modern human variation and larger than earlier Homo sapiens populations. While early Homo sapiens also had relatively large brains, Cro-Magnons displayed further refinements in frontal lobe complexity. As they spread across the European continent, Cro-Magnon people left behind remarkable evidence of their existence, including genetic traces in modern populations. For example, genetic research has traced the origins of blue eyes, which are associated with some European populations today, to a mutation that likely first appeared around 40,000 years ago in the Caucasus. Incredibly, the earliest direct evidence for this genetic mutation comes from remains found in Italy, where a Cro-Magnon individual who lived approximately 17,000 years ago had genes for blue eyes. However, one of the most striking features of the Cro-Magnon skull is its high and nearly vertical forehead, which contrasts with the lower, more sloping foreheads of earlier Homo sapiens. This trait indicates an expanded frontal lobe, the region of the brain associated with problem-solving, reasoning, language, and abstract thought. The forehead's height and shape suggest that Cro-Magnons had a cognitive capacity that allowed for advanced planning, social cooperation, and symbolic expression, as seen in their art, tool-making, and burial practices. Instead, it reflects patterns similar to those found in many early modern human fossils, which are larger and more robust than later Holocene populations. Anthropologists in the early 20th century often referred to the forehead as the mirror of intelligence because of its association with cognitive expansion. While earlier Homo sapiens had already begun developing a higher forehead compared to archaic human species, Cro-Magnons exhibited an even greater degree of cranial vault expansion, allowing for more advanced brain function. The high forehead of Cro-Magnons is more than just an anatomical trait. It is a reflection of their advanced cognitive abilities. The increased frontal lobe capacity, combined with other cranial refinements, suggests a significant leap in intelligence, creativity, and social complexity. This evolutionary development allowed Cro-Magnons to master complex problem-solving and long-term planning, develop intricate symbolic thought and artistic expression, establish sophisticated social structures and cooperation, advances in tool-making and survival strategies. The overall shape of the Cro-Magnon skull was globular and well-rounded, providing more space for expanded cortical areas, particularly those responsible for higher-order thinking, memory, and social cognition. Earlier Homo sapiens still exhibited a somewhat elongated skull shape, but Cro-Magnons had a more compact and efficient cranial structure, maximizing brain volume while maintaining a balanced, symmetrical head shape, including among their women. The cheekbones of Cro-Magnons were high and relatively flat, giving their faces a broad, open appearance. This trait contrasts with the more pronounced and forward-projecting facial structures of earlier Homo sapiens. The flatter facial profile of Cro-Magnons suggests an adaptation toward a more refined diet and lifestyle, with less emphasis on raw food consumption that required heavy chewing. Compared to earlier Homo sapiens, Cro-Magnons had a flatter midface with less projection. This feature is associated with the continued trend toward a more modern human appearance, with a reduction in robust facial traits that were more prominent in early Homo sapiens populations. Cro-Magnons also had relatively small and reduced brow ridges compared to earlier Homo sapiens. While early modern human populations still retained moderate brow ridges as a remnant of their evolutionary past, Cro-Magnons developed a smoother and more gracile facial structure. This shift suggests less reliance on heavy musculature for chewing and facial reinforcement, likely due to improved tool use and food processing techniques that made excessive jaw strength unnecessary. Another defining trait of Cro-Magnons was their strong and well-developed chin, known to anatomists as the mental eminence. While early Homo sapiens had begun to develop this feature, Cro-Magnons exhibited an even more pronounced and structured chin, which may have played a role in speech articulation and jaw reinforcement. The presence of a strong chin is a unique trait of modern humans and represents an important step in the evolutionary refinement of facial morphology, owing to the reduction in the size of their teeth. Furthermore, the analysis of their lower limb anomalies suggests that squatting was a common repose position among these Ice Age humans. The crouching position, shared by ancient man and some living peoples, is an ancestral remnant. This is an example of how individual evolution recalls and replicates the evolution of the ancestral race. Another ancestral trait found in some Cro-Magnon fossils is what is referred to as prehensile big toe, which is a very elongated and widely flared big toe that is often compared to a gorilla. As a matter of fact, over 100 years ago, the famous French paleoanthropologist Marcellin Boule noted this trait in a Cro Magnon fossil known as the Chancelade man. Over several decades, American physical anthropologist William Howells documented tens of thousands of human skulls in museum collections around the world. Remarkably, Howells' skull measurements revealed distinct correlations between geography and human biology, contributing to our understanding of the world's population history. Howells included a number of fossil human skulls in this comparison to see if they could provide insights into modern human dispersal patterns. Remarkably, one of the patterns that emerged was that many of the earliest European modern human skulls from the last Ice Age, known as Cro Magnons, were statistically very similar to some South Africans, Aboriginal Australians, and Papua New Guineans. One of the earliest and most complete Cro-Magnon skulls from Europe can be found among the remains of ancient Europeans at Kostenki. The remains discovered at Kostenki in the Eastern European plain belong to a man who lived between 38,700 and 36,200 years ago. In Howells' original multivariate analysis, the Kostenki 14 skull was statistically very similar to another 36,000-year-old skull found in South Africa, known as the Hofmeyr skull. Yet, a genetic study demonstrates that Kostenki 14 was already purely European. Nevertheless, it is widely accepted today that these multivariate analyses of ancient and modern skulls do not always reveal a strong biological relationship between similarly shaped skulls. While early Homo sapiens had already shown signs of intelligence and adaptability, Cro-Magnons represented a further refinement in brain organization and behavioral complexity. Their skull morphology, particularly the high forehead, suggests a transition into fully modern cognition, paving the way for the cultural and technological achievements that defined the Upper Paleolithic period. This feature, along with other cranial adaptations, suggests a highly developed brain capable of complex thought and language. One of the strangest patterns that emerges is that modern humans arrive in the Arctic many thousands of years before they arrive in Western Europe. This suggests that our Cro-Magnon ancestors had to fight their way through Neanderthal lands slowly, but could move more quickly when avoiding direct confrontation, using technology to exploit habitats that Neanderthals did not. Modern humans had advanced technology such as fur clothing, warm shelters, and new fire-making technology such as bow drills that enabled them to live in cold regions and start fires where Neanderthals could not. They may then have expanded back into Neanderthal territory, completing a flanking maneuver around 40,000 years ago after the last of the Neanderthals had vanished. Think about that. 40,000 years ago. Estimating Cro-Magnon populations is a challenging task due to the fragmentary nature of the fossil record. Nevertheless, researchers have developed several methods to approximate their numbers. One approach is analyzing the density and distribution of archaeological sites. The number of known Cro-Magnon sites, such as La Chaux, Chauvet, and Abri de Cro-Magnon, provides insight into how widespread these populations were in Europe. By comparing the density of sites across different regions, scientists can infer population density per square kilometre. Another method involves carrying capacity models, which estimate the number of people an environment could support based on available food resources. Since Cro-Magnons were hunter-gatherers relying on large game and plant gathering, estimates of caloric intake and resource sustainability help determine potential population sizes. Studies suggest that hunter-gatherer populations rarely exceeded 0.1 to 1 person per square kilometre, indicating that Cro-Magnon groups were relatively small and spread out. Genetic studies also provide valuable information about population sizes. By analysing genetic variation in ancient human fossils, researchers can estimate the effective population size of Cro-Magnons and their ancestors. These studies suggest that early Upper Paleolithic populations were likely only in the tens of thousands across Europe. The comparison to modern hunter-gatherer groups further supports this, as living hunter-gatherers typically live in small bands of 20 to 50 individuals, with regional populations numbering in the thousands. Regional estimates based on fossil evidence suggest that Western Europe may have had a population of approximately 35,000 to 50,000 people at the peak of the Cro-Magnon era, around 25,000 years ago. When considering the entirety of Europe, Upper Paleolithic population estimates range from 150,000 to 300,000 individuals at various points in time. These numbers fluctuated due to climatic shifts, particularly during the last glacial maximum around 20,000 years ago, when harsh conditions reduced populations significantly, while warmer periods would have allowed for expansion. Cro-Magnon women were tall and robust compared to many modern human populations due to their subtropical ancestry. They had broad shoulders, strong limbs, and thick bones, indicating a highly active lifestyle in both men and women. Estimates based on skeletal remains suggest that Cro-Magnon women typically stood between 1.6 to 1.7 meters, about 5 feet 5 inches to 5 feet 7 inches in height, though some would have been taller. Several well-preserved female Cro-Magnon skeletons provide significant insights into their physical characteristics, health, lifestyle, and cultural practices. These fossil women, who lived tens of thousands of years ago, were anatomically modern, but exhibited robust skeletal features that distinguished them from contemporary populations. Indeed, early modern humans of the Ice Age are closer to robust Neanderthal morphology in many aspects than they are to modern, sedentary populations. The most famous Cro-Magnon woman was discovered in 1868 at the Cro-Magnon rock shelter in France, and is estimated to be approximately 27,000 years old. Based on her skeletal remains, she likely stood at around 166 centimeters, 5 feet 5 inches, tall, and had a body mass of approximately 65 kilos, 143 pounds. Her brain capacity was approximately 1,500 cubic centimeters, which falls within the higher range of modern human females. She exhibited a high forehead, a prominent chin, and large eye sockets, features that contrast sharply with the more robust facial structure of Neanderthals. Her skull showed signs of cranial trauma, possibly the result of an accident or interpersonal conflict. Nonetheless, evidence suggests she survived the injury, as the bone shows signs of healing. The Cro-Magnon woman likely perished in early adulthood, at around 30 to 35 years of age. Her burial alongside other individuals suggests that these early Upper Paleolithic humans engaged in deliberate funerary practices. Another Cro-Magnon, the Sungir woman, discovered in the East European plain, dates to around 34,000 years ago. She was taller than many other Upper Paleolithic females, with an estimated height of 168 centimeters, 5 foot 6 inches, and a body mass of around 70 kilos, 154 pounds. Her brain volume also was estimated to be approximately 1,500 to 1,550 cubic centimeters, making her comparable in cranial capacity to modern humans. Overall, Cro Magnons females were physically robust and tall compared to most later human populations. She was also buried alongside other individuals in one of the most elaborate Upper Paleolithic burials ever discovered. Her grave contained thousands of ivory beads, personal ornaments, and red ochre, suggesting a high social status. She likely died at around 35 to 40 years old, and the care taken with her burial indicates a complex social and ritualistic culture among Cro Magnon groups. In fact, most Cro Magnon fossils have been purposefully buried, and the bodies were covered in ochre and accompanied by items put into the tomb. This points to a belief in an afterlife and shows proof of ceremonial activity and contact with the dead. Studies of Cro Magnon skeletons reveal that humans were living longer, probably to the age where they could be grandparents. This produced a social framework based on extended families, whereby grandparents could assist in raising the children to a higher degree than in past times. Like many early human cultures, the Cro Magnon people likely adorned themselves with body art, jewelry, and other forms of personal decoration. Body art in the form of tattoos or painting with ochre has been suggested based on the presence of red, white, and black ochre in burial sites and its use in cave paintings. These pigments may have been used not just for artistic purposes, but also for marking status, identity, or affiliation within the group. The religious or spiritual beliefs of the Cro Magnon people can only be inferred from their art, burial practices, and symbolic artifacts. Their cave paintings, carvings, and personal adornments suggest that they viewed the world through a lens imbued with meaning and ritual. Many Cro Magnon graves contain grave goods, such as tools, weapons, shells, and even food, indicating that they believed in some form of existence after death. Some of the dead were also buried with red ochre, a pigment that may have been used in symbolic or ritualistic rites associated with life, death, and rebirth. However, the use of the term Cro Magnon has been insinuated to have biases, so the word was changed in most academic publications. As stated, the term Cro Magnon refers to a population of Upper Paleolithic humans from Europe, dating from about 40,000 to 10,000 years ago. This term has clear geographic and temporal significance, distinguishing these populations from later Mesolithic and Neolithic humans, as well as from contemporary early modern humans in Africa and Asia. The term is deeply ingrained in the history of anthropology and serves as a recognizable reference point for scholars, educators, and the public. The term Cro-Magnon remains a valuable scientific term, despite ongoing debates about its usage in paleoanthropology. While some researchers advocate for abandoning the term in favor of early European modern humans, or simply Homo sapiens, Cro-Magnon still holds significant scientific, historical, and taxonomic value for several reasons. If we cancel the term Cro-Magnon, then why not also change the name of Neanderthals? Ponder on that for a moment. Cro-Magnon represents a stage in this evolution that is unquestionably distant from the beginning, resembling the modern state of man while remaining distinct. One of the strongest reasons to retain Cro-Magnon is that it describes a specific population of early Homo sapiens with unique anatomical features. Unlike modern humans, Cro-Magnons had a robust skeletal structure with pronounced musculature, a high rounded cranium with a prominent forehead, large brain capacity, a short wide face with reduced brow ridges compared to Neanderthals, and strong limb proportions adapted to Ice Age climates. These traits set them apart not only from Neanderthals but also from other early modern humans in Africa and Asia, justifying their continued recognition. Furthermore, similar terms like Neanderthal remain in use, despite genetic evidence showing significant interbreeding with modern humans. If Neanderthal is retained to describe a distinctive population, Cro-Magnon should be as well. While Cro-Magnons are genetically part of Homo sapiens, studies of ancient DNA reveal that they possessed unique genetic traits compared to modern Europeans. Their higher genetic diversity and certain extinct lineages indicate that they were not simply identical to present-day Europeans, but represented a specific phase in the evolution of modern human populations. Opponents of the term argue that all early modern humans should simply be classified as Homo sapiens. Additionally, comparisons between Cro Magnons, Neanderthals, and other ancient human populations provide insights into adaptation, migration, and interbreeding, reinforcing the utility of keeping the term as a distinct identifier. The term Cro-Magnon remains a valuable scientific concept because it describes a specific, well-defined group of early European humans with distinct anatomical, cultural, and genetic traits. While all Cro-Magnons were Homo sapiens, not all early Homo sapiens were Cro-Magnons. The name helps distinguish these Upper Paleolithic Europeans from both their ancestors and later European populations. With that, we leave you to ponder the mysteries of our shared human history. Until next time, remain curious and stay questioning. Also, please subscribe, share, and explore our channel's other videos. Thank you and take care.